So hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar on making compliance profitable for your firm with QuickBooks Online Accountant and LodgeiT. So my name is Matthew and I am one of the strategic partner managers for Insured Australia, and co-hosting today will be Andrew Noble from LodgeiT, who's one of the co-founders. So the agenda today, so we're going to talk about prep for taxes, which is going to be available to all advisors within QuickBooks Online Accountant. And we're also going to talk about LodgeiT, which is a tax lodgement platform that's fully cloud-based. So this is the online accountant dashboard that you'll essentially see once you log in as the advisor. So I'm going to go down and choose a client. So in this case, Mobile Phones Direct. Now, when I'm in the client file and I hover over the accountant tools briefcase, so I'm going to click on this option here and I've got a option now for prep for taxes. When we click on prep for taxes, traditionally what accountants used to do when using QuickBooks Online is for end of year clients, they would generally log in, download the balance sheet, their P&L trial balance, or general ledger summary, and put those net movement figures into their legacy-based tax system. Now within QuickBooks Online Accountant, you have the ability to start from prep for taxes. So essentially this is your one place to review and adjust a client's work before you push it into LodgeiT to complete the tax return. So I'm going to start off here with the tax year 2017. So this is for my client for Mobile Phones Direct, as I can see up the top. I can choose cash or accrual basis method of accounting. And as I can see from this window, I have, so it starts off with the balance sheet and you have your P&L down the bottom. There is the option here to break up the accounts or close them off. So when I click on this little icon drop down, it will essentially open up every single account. Now, this view essentially gives you the closing balance for the year that was 2016, and you have your comparative period for the year. So you have the year that was 2017, and you have your net movement figure for that year. Now, as the accountant, I basically would be coming into this screen and I have checklist items. So as I work through each account, I can tick off each account as I go through the balance sheet items and then onto the P&L. What you'll notice is once you start going through, as the accountant, you have the ability to make adjustments on each account, add a note. So if I'm going to leave a note here for other team members within my practice, so Sean, could you please look over this account? I'm going to save that. And I've actually left a note on this account. So you can see that there's a note left. The other option that I also have is if I click on the little drop down, there is an option to add attachment. So this effectively aids to your working paper solution for QuickBooks. So as you go through each account, you can upload documents here. So if for this particular account, 104 transaction, I might upload, let's just say it might be transactions for last year. So whatever the case may be, you can attach as many documents as you like into this area here. You can also leave notes on that level as well for your team. So as I go down through each account, once I'm happy, I can obviously continue to attach documents and check off each account as I complete my end of year checklist process. Once I'm happy and I've checked through all the balance sheet and profit and loss items, I can then effectively push this into LodgeiT. In summary, this is your one-stop place as an accountant to review your client's books for year end. So from this window here, you have a single view, which effectively just minimizes the time that you have to go through the reporting windows and download various reports. So once you're happy with this, then in its current state, you can push this onto the tax system, which is LodgeiT.
Where I'm starting is with the LodgeiT dashboard. And the LodgeiT dashboard is all about your forms across your practice, and you can see your forms in their various states. So we can see that for this practice here, we've got 210 due forms. We can filter those quite easily. So we can filter those to activity statements, or we might choose to filter them to company tax returns. What this is allowing us to do is we're able to see what's due, and this what's due date is coming in from the ATO systems. So we're essentially using this as our lodgement tracking report to see when our forms are due and make sure that we meet our deadlines. Along here, you can also see forms that are out to sign. So just make sure we can see all the forms out to sign. We can keep a track of who we've sent forms to and then follow them up if necessary. And here we've got a couple of forms that have come back, and you can see it says to sign. So to signs for me as the tax agent to sign and lodge. So essentially that's now those 2 forms are lodging, and we've got all our lodged forms. What I'm going to do is actually walk you through preparing an individual tax return. So we'll find an individual, and we can see we've got one individual form which is due. I'm actually going to start this form from scratch to give you a real feel for how the system will work with an individual tax return. So it's a 2018 year. The first thing that happens is the LodgeiT system goes off to the ATO to get any pre-fill data, and then we've got the option to import some financials if there's a business associated with this individual. So you can see, based on what's in the LodgeiT systems and also what's come through from the ATO systems, parts of the form are already configured and turned on. It's easy enough at this stage for me to activate any of the other parts if I needed to in order to complete them, but the goal is to keep it pretty simple and make sure there's not too much to work on in any of the summary sections. So you can see we've got summary sections off of the major sections. And if you see, we've got interest, dividends, trust income. But let's just say that we had some other income here as well. Maybe we had other income, and perhaps we had some farm management income. So now if we go in, we'll see that we've got those additional income sections, and we can fill those manually. The goal is here, you could see the section is actually auto-filled from the ATO system, so that's your pre-fill going through. And for me anyway, I like to just work through the form using the validate button. I prefer to use that than clicking through. So this just takes me to where there's any missing parts. And then from there, I'm just clicking validate, using the system to do the hard lifting. When the form is complete and valid, then I can click complete. And what we'll now have is we'll have the form in a completed state with the date. So now you've got the option to print it and send it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to email this, and you can configure your own templates. You can see the template pretty much lays out what the taxable income is and what the refund is. So let's just send that through. So I'm actually sending that to myself just so that you can get a feel for what it feels like from the client's perspective. So that is now out to sign. And if I go to forms for the client, you can see that says out to sign there, and also on the dashboard, that form will be out to sign. So I just heard that arrive. So it's arrived with the client. So I'm emulating the client's perspective. I could have changed this. I could have made it a little bit neater if I'd wanted to manually there. And you can see here we've got the firm contact details and the firm colors and the logos of the firm, which you can configure through the LodgeiT system. So I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So let's just go into the signing experience for the client. And the client can look through their form. And as you know, most clients probably won't go too much further than the tax estimate. But anyway, they can have a scan through, and then they can start with their signing process. So you've just got to put in your signature, continue, and agree. So that form is now signed for the client. Well, the client has signed that form, and me as the tax agent, I can come back in here. I can go back to the client. So I can open that form. You can see it's locked, so you can't change it at this stage, and it does say out to sign, and I can sort of reload that form. And now you can see the status has changed to sign. And if you remember, to sign means that I can now press lodge, okay, if I wanted. And certainly under forms, that form is out to sign. The client will get one more email saying, thank you very much for signing, with a copy. And the accounting firm will have a copy of that signed form in here. So the signed form is in here. And if we go down through that form, which you already saw, to the bottom, you'll see that it's got date timestamps for all of the actions. If we go back up, you'll see my little scroll signature there. So that's pretty much how the signing process is working for that form and how you track it through its life cycle to sign. So to sign, and the next thing would be for me to tick, sign, sign and lodge. In this case, I'm not doing that. I'm just using this as a demonstration. So that's your signing process. And now what we can do is we can sort of jump into showing you how we can sort of add a new client. In this case, I've selected any client out of the ABI register as a demonstration, and I'll add that client in. This is another way of getting your client into the system, and what we can do is we can sort of rename this. We'll rename it to the client Pty Limited. So this lines up with what we have in QuickBooks. And I'm simply selecting Anna Doe, who will be our signatory. Here I'll synchronize this with QuickBooks Online Accountant so that you've now got the details in your free QuickBooks account so that you can bill the client. So that will automatically inject the client details into QuickBooks if you're using QBOA as your billing engine. So we've added the client, and now at this stage we could easily go into QuickBooks. We could use the new tool, and from here we could generate our reports and push them through. But in this case, what I will show you is I'll show you the other method, which is we'll have a look at the report. Let's have a look at the balance sheet, just so that you can see what it is that we'll bring in. So there's our accounts receivable, there's our bank, and what we want to do here is we want to go to financials and import. So QuickBooks Online, you can see that we could bring in the accounts off any of these other accounting systems if we so chose to do so, and we could bring in from Excel as well. But obviously this is a super efficient way to do it. And I've got LodgeiT, so we called it here LodgeiT Sample Co. And I want to connect this client. So this is only a once-off process. Once it's completed once, you don't need to repeat the process. So we'll connect the two entities, and they're essentially the same entity, the accounting file in QuickBooks and LodgeiT with the tax. So let's import our client data. So you saw it's the client there and it's the client there. So what this process presupposes is that optimally you will work with your clients through the year to make sure their data files are crisp and clean. And that means that at the end of the year, you should have a minimal amount of work to do to get your client accounting data into good order. The better the quality of the accounting data, the less work you will have in backwards and forwards refreshing of data. Easy enough to do a refresh on the data if we wanted to. But essentially you can see here, there's your accounts receivable, there's your NAB, so accounts receivable and the NAB. So essentially this is one and the same balance sheet and profit and loss. From here, it's a simple case of just opening the tax form, really. So we'll add in a company tax return, and don't forget we're using 2017 data here. So same as with the individual tax return, you can see that different sections are activated based on what is in the data payload. So what is in the data payload here? Pretty much everything that came through from QuickBooks in its initial state. So you'll notice that it's marked with QBO, and we can see where these line items have been classified. If you needed to, it's easy enough to open up another tab if you wanted to reclassify something. So there's that data set there. We could jump across here, and this is where you manage your classifications. To be honest, most of the classifications will take place in an automated fashion. So there's some technology we use in LodgeiT that reads these line items, just like you as a human read the line items, and classify the line items to the correct groups. There might be some additional tasks, like, for instance, creating relationships between the asset and the accumulated line item. And there's a bit of a learning curve around how to create your accounts in an optimal fashion so that you can get this kind of effect. And what I mean by that is, optimally you'll break out your depreciation line items so that the expense line item can line up with the cost line item, and then you can get this kind of effect. And then you might need to tag something. So here we might have entertainment being non-deductible. We tag off on that, and then anything we do back here, we could come back to the tax return. We can reload that. So you saw I just right-click, reload. And what we'll find now is, if I jump over to the reconciliation, what we'll have here is non-deductible expenses. So let me just find those non-deductible expenses. The non-deductible expenses now containing the entertainment expense, which I just tagged as non-deductible, and also includes things like, for instance, your super payable for 30 June 2017, non-deductible, 30 June 2016 super now becoming deductible, and all your accounting depreciation non-deductible, with the system expecting that you would use the depreciation module, and then your depreciation would flow through. Now, bear in mind, I didn't activate the depreciation, and I didn't have time to put the depreciation assets in, so therefore this wasn't fully automated. But if you've got time to do that, then you'll get that full flow through of the depreciation, and this will all be pretty automated for you. So let's just put in a $4,000 value, which you can do manually if for some reason you're using an external depreciation module. And you can see here, what do we have? We've got the tax value depreciation. The rest of the form pretty much getting filled automatically, and it's easy enough to click there to see what went into those different sections, noticing that all of the line items from QBO retain their initial characteristics. So it's very easy to follow from here back to here, all the line items named exactly as they are in QBO. So one thing to note here while I'm on this, things like dividends and interest, you've got your QBO value, which is your accounting value. What you don't have is you don't have your tax value. So maybe this is an NAB dividend, and maybe there's $200 worth of franking credits, because sometimes you'll have dividends which are not exactly the same as the tax value, not the same as the accounting value. So you may, in this case, need to add in the tax values, and that will certainly reflect in the reconciliation. So you can see there's your franking credits, and the adjustments back out. So income not included in assessable income. We've now only got the partnership income and the trust income, for which I did not put in my partnership and trust values, but certainly those values will stream directly in if you've prepared your partnership and your trust inside of LodgeiT. So let's go over to the tax calc. For the tax calc, you can see the franking credits have come through automatically, and the same as the TFN withholding credits. The tax rate will be based around what you use in your settings, so whether you've said that this is a small business entity or not. So your different tax rates will be activated based on what you have for your settings. So pretty much that's your tax form completed. And then certainly we've got all the other modules in LodgeiT which you're welcome to use. For instance, let's make sure we add in the relationship here, because if you remember, we had Anna Doe. So we've got Anna Doe there as our director. And if we need to use special purpose reports, now we can go and generate our special purpose reports and put in Anna Doe as our director. Okay, so you can change the name, make sure you select the right year, and then off we go. So now what we'll have is we'll have all of the relevant information inside our, so this is our compilation report. Director's declaration will have Anna's name. Trading account will be complete. And if we wanted, we could simply generate that set of special purpose reports to take a look at and see what it is that we can send off to the client. So the same as with the tax returns, you can send the tax returns electronically for signing to your clients, and you can send special purpose financial reports using exactly the same approach. So notice how everything is automatically grouped appropriately. So that's the system automating the preparation of your special purpose reports and saving you time on that effort. So you've got your company profit and loss appropriation, and you've got your notes. So you will be fully compliant under the APE standards for all the different accounting institutions that demand special purpose reports are produced for your clients. From there, you can go and you can use our working paper module if you, for whatever reason, needed to use this as an additional module. So if you remember, we've got 2017, and we can put in, you can put in yourself if you wanted as both the accountant and the reviewer. So from here, you can go and manage, and how this will work is, let me just go over to a demonstration file where I've actually had time to put in the assets so that we can actually see how the working papers actually hang the depreciation reports together within the working papers. So here you can see, here's our, so I'll open that in a new tab. So that's our asset group. And these are the reports. Don't forget it's 16, 17. So you've got a full depreciation reporting module here, and those depreciation groups will inject themselves dynamically into the work papers as a worksheet. If you want to bring in your GL ledger, you can. So you can see we've got a snapshot of the QuickBooks GL ledger at that point in time. And essentially what this worksheet is doing here for you is you've got your values out of QBO. So if we went back here, we've got motor vehicle at cost 26,255 and the accumulated 13,023, and that's sort of lining up for us. So those are the QBO values lining up and giving us a written down value which corresponds to the worksheet. So essentially that's what the working papers are doing for you. And if you wanted to add and hook on a working paper, you can do exactly the same thing. So you can collect your working papers out of any system. So you've got an integrated working paper module. What I don't have time to go through with you today, but certainly is worth you exploring, is all the additional tools that we include in LodgeiT. So we're really focused on making LodgeiT a one-stop shop for all those important components that an accounting firm typically needs for their day-to-day operations. Things like, for instance, share register for tracking who owns the shares, who the members are, who the directors are, when a director comes in, when a director resigns, borrowing cost calculators, HP calculators, a share component for tracking share ownership. And I'll just jump over to another entity here just to finish off and show you that easy enough to add in your hire purchases. Here there's a whole heap of hire purchases. We can open a hire purchase. You can attach your hire purchase documentation, including all of the computational facts, and then with those computational facts, derive some kind of report. So in here, in this case, we've got two different types of reports. We've got an amortization table, and we also have a balance table or balance summary, which should line up with your balance sheet as at a point in time. So here we've got balances as at 30 June 2018. Plenty of other features in LodgeiT, and just to finish off on, bear in mind that what we've been able to achieve in a very short space of time is we've been able to go through, we've been able to generate special purpose reports, fill a tax form, and prepare working papers. And certainly you can use all these additional tools to help you carry out your analysis. So easy enough to do an analysis, including an analysis of your GST in an automated fashion to see if there's any variances across the bottom. So let me just show you. This is dynamically coming in off the ATO systems. No need for me to worry about whether I lodged this activity statement or if the client lodged the activity statement. In this case, the facts have been pulled in out of the ATO systems, and we can use these facts for our working papers. So if you need to change your branding, you can change your branding. You can manage your e-sign language, so the language that goes with your digital signs. So just jump in there and you can see you've got your digital sign management capabilities here, where you can change what the language says around a given form type or around the special purpose financial reports if you want to use our e-sign methodology. You can, and then over here as well, you can come and handle your team configuration. So there's plenty of functionality around what you can allow your team to do in terms of attaching documents, lodging forms, unlocking forms, that sort of thing. So any further questions, any further queries, best place to start is always our knowledge base. So when you start with the knowledge base, we suggest that your first time that you come in here, come in and have a look through, check what we have in the way of videos. So there's plenty of videos here that you can use. There's question answers that come from users, and there's articles that will help you to use the system appropriately. So you can see here we've got some useful help pieces. And then anytime you need help and assistance from us, the best way to reach out is if you can just put in your feedback. So use this feedback box, attach your file. We do have phone support, but we ask and suggest that you use this. It's a better experience for us and for you. We don't have to play phone tag. In summary, I think what we can say is that we've seen that LodgeiT will really help to streamline your tax and accounting practice from a compliance perspective. You've seen that LodgeIT's got plenty of smarts that will help to autofill the tax forms using pre-filled data. No need to upload XML files and manually key data. Doesn't matter what downstream accounting software you're using, you will be able to import the accounting data effectively and efficiently to fill forms, and you can collaborate with your team members, given that this is a cloud environment, to give yourselves a really super efficient way to get your taxes compiled for your clients. And you can certainly use the digital signing processes to short circuit what is otherwise quite a cumbersome process of printing documents, putting them in envelopes, sending them out, putting stamps on, and then having to open the envelopes on the other side and hoping that your clients might have a pen to actually sign the document in the first place. So if you're looking for a super efficient way to get your annual compliance work handled, LodgeiT is certainly the tool for your practice.
So as you can see, for the first time in QuickBooks Online Accountant, you can now manage the end-to-end tax preparation, review, and lodgement process within the new Prep for Taxes and LodgeiT solution. This will save you time and drive efficiencies within your practice. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar. Hope you have a great day.